Ryan was just an ordinary 11-year-old boy living in a quiet, small town. His life was simple, filled with school, playing with friends, and spending time with his family. He had a younger sister, and together they enjoyed typical childhood moments: homework, dinner with his parents, and weekend adventures. Their home was filled with laughter, even when the world outside seemed a little uncertain. Like most families, they dealt with the usual worries, like rising prices and the changing moods of society, but nothing too unusual. One evening, everything changed in an instant. Ryan sat at the dinner table with his family, just like any other night, when he suddenly felt a strange dizziness sweep over him. Before anyone could react, Ryan collapsed to the floor, lifeless. His parents panicked, desperately calling for help. His mother cried out his name, but he didn't respond. His father quickly dialed emergency services while trying to check if Ryan was breathing. Doctors soon arrived and worked urgently to revive him, but Ryan's heart had stopped. He was clinically dead for nearly 10 minutes. His family watched, helpless, as the seconds ticked by, not knowing if their son would ever come back to them. During the nearly 10 minutes Ryan was clinically dead, something extraordinary happened. He wasn't aware of any pain or fear. There was only a deep, overwhelming sense of calm. It was as if he was floating, weightless and free from the troubles of the world. Ryan found himself hovering above his own body, looking down at the scene around him. His family was in complete panic, his mother crying out in distress, his father trying desperately to help, and his younger sister whispering prayers she had learned in Sunday school. Doctors worked quickly, performing CPR and trying to revive him, but all Ryan could do was watch from above. There was no fear or discomfort in this strange state. In fact, Ryan felt a strange comfort and peace. The chaotic scene below seemed distant and muffled, almost unreal. He couldn't reach out to his family, but he could sense their emotions, their desperation, their love. Despite the urgency, it felt as if time had slowed down. Ryan wasn't frightened, but rather filled with a profound serenity. It was as though he had been lifted into another realm, one where everything was calm and still, away from the fear and worry surrounding his body. As Ryan continued to float above his body, he suddenly felt a gentle pull, as if an invisible force was guiding him. It wasn't harsh or frightening, more like a soft invitation to move forward. Slowly, he began to drift through a tunnel made entirely of shimmering light. The light was warm and inviting, unlike anything he had ever seen before. It didn't hurt his eyes. Instead, it made him feel safe, as if it was wrapping him in a blanket of peace. The tunnel felt endless, yet Ryan wasn't anxious. It was as though time itself had stopped, and he was moving through a space beyond anything he had known. As he journeyed through this glowing passage, he heard faint whispers, like the voices of people or souls from far away. These whispers weren't scary. They were calm, soothing, and filled with purpose. Ryan didn't understand what they were saying at first, but he somehow knew they were guiding him, telling him that his journey had meaning. He didn't feel alone. It was as if everyone around him was watching over him with love and care. Finally, after what felt like both an eternity and a moment, the tunnel began to open up. As the light faded behind him, Ryan found himself entering a new world, a magnificent golden realm. It was beyond anything he could have imagined. The air was soft, and the sky was a brilliant shade of gold, with clouds that seemed to glow. Everything felt perfect, as though it belonged to a different kind of reality. Ryan felt lighter than he had ever felt, completely free of worry or fear. The peace that filled him was so deep, so pure, that he didn't want to leave. It was as though he had found a place where he truly belonged. He stood there for a moment, taking in the beauty and serenity of this otherworldly place. The golden light surrounding him was comforting, and he knew deep inside that there was something he needed to understand. It was as if this realm was showing him something important, something beyond his own understanding. The feeling of belonging grew stronger, and Ryan knew that his journey wasn't just by chance. There was a reason he had been brought here, and it was a message that he needed to carry back with him. Something big was waiting for him, and though he didn't know what it was yet, he felt that this was just the beginning of something much greater. As Ryan stood in the Golden Realm, taking in the beauty and serenity of this strange place, he suddenly noticed a figure approaching him from the distance. At first, the figure was just a glowing light, so bright that Ryan couldn't make out any details. But as it grew closer, Ryan felt a sense of awe and reverence. The figure was radiant, glowing with a soft, pure light that seemed to shine from within. Ryan felt a warmth spread through his chest as the figure came into focus. It was Jesus. Despite the overwhelming radiance surrounding him, Jesus seemed humble, approachable, and filled with an incredible sense of peace. He wore flowing white robes, and his eyes radiated love and understanding. Ryan didn't feel scared at all, even in the presence of such a powerful being. Instead, he felt an immediate connection, a sense of being safe and cared for. Jesus smiled at him, and Ryan felt his heart fill with warmth and comfort. "Ryan, my child," Jesus spoke, his voice gentle but filled with authority. "You are here for a reason. You have been chosen to carry a very important message. What you have seen so far is only the beginning of what is to come. You must share this with the world." Ryan listened intently, though he was still overwhelmed by the encounter. He didn't fully understand why he was being chosen for this responsibility, but something deep inside him told him that it was important. Jesus continued, explaining that the world was heading toward a difficult time, one that would come to a head in the year 2025. There would be great challenges, natural disasters, division, and conflict, shaking humanity to its core. "But there is hope," Jesus said, looking Ryan directly in the eyes. "You must tell them that there is still time to change. People must return to love, to kindness, to faith. Only through unity and forgiveness will they be able to overcome what is coming. It is not too late." Ryan listened closely, his heart heavy with the weight of this message. He could feel the gravity of the words, knowing that what Jesus was saying wasn't just for him to hear. It was a message that needed to be shared with the world. Jesus continued to speak with great compassion, reassuring Ryan that despite the challenges ahead, humanity had the power to turn things around. "You must remind them," Jesus said, "that they are not alone. I am always with them, guiding them." As Ryan took in this profound message, he felt both humbled and empowered. Jesus had entrusted him with something very important, something that could change the course of the future. Ryan knew that he had to be brave, to carry this message with love and courage, no matter how difficult it might be. After receiving his message from Jesus, Ryan's experience took a darker turn. Jesus began to show him visions of the future, devastating images of a world ravaged by destruction. Ryan saw scenes that were both heartbreaking and terrifying, and they left him with a deep sense of sadness and fear for the future of humanity. In one vision, Ryan witnessed massive floods sweeping across cities, turning streets into rivers. Entire neighborhoods were submerged, with people struggling to find safety as water poured through buildings, destroying everything in its path. He could see families trapped in their homes, their faces filled with fear as they tried to escape the rising waters. The sky was dark and the air was thick with panic. It was a scene of unimaginable chaos, and Ryan felt a deep sorrow as he watched helplessly. Another vision showed raging wildfires, sweeping through forests, consuming everything in their path. The flames burned bright and fierce, turning once beautiful landscapes into nothing but ash. Ryan saw homes being engulfed in fire and families desperately trying to escape, running through smoke-filled air. The heat was unbearable, and the destruction felt endless. People were crying out for help, but there was no one to save them. The fires symbolized not just the devastation of nature, but also the anger and division that had taken hold of humanity. As Ryan continued to watch, the visions shifted to scenes of societal collapse. People were fighting in the streets, turning against one another in fear and hatred. The divisions between them were vast, with people choosing sides based on anger and distrust. There was no love, no unity, just chaos. Neighbors once friendly to each other now saw one another as enemies. The world was fractured, with humanity's deepest bonds torn apart. Ryan felt the weight of this division deeply, knowing that it was a reflection of the loss of love and faith that Jesus had warned about. These scenes showed Ryan the consequences of a world that had forgotten the importance of kindness, faith, and unity. The disasters and conflicts were not just natural forces. They were the result of humanity's choices, fueled by fear, hatred, and division. Ryan understood that the future could become a place of darkness unless people changed their ways. The visions were a warning, a call to action, showing that humanity had the power to prevent this fate if only they chose to come together with love and compassion. As Ryan absorbed the visions of destruction and chaos, he felt a deep sense of helplessness. The images of floods, fires, and societal collapse weighed heavily on his heart. But just as he was about to feel overwhelmed by the darkness, Jesus spoke again, offering a message of hope and redemption. Jesus explained to Ryan that these calamities were not punishments from God. Instead, they were warnings, signs of what could happen if humanity continued down the path of hatred, fear, and division. These events are not meant to scare you, Jesus said softly, but to show you what is at stake. They are a call to awaken, to turn back to love and faith before it is too late. Ryan listened carefully as Jesus continued. The world is in danger, but it is not beyond saving. You have the power to change what is coming. Each person has the ability to make a difference. Through love, kindness, forgiveness, and faith, humanity can overcome these challenges. It is not too late. Jesus emphasized that the strength to change the future lay within every individual. People have the power to heal their hearts, to forgive one another, and to come together as a community. It is in these acts of love and faith that you will find the strength to overcome the storms of life. Jesus explained that these acts were not just about individual transformation, but about collective healing. When people came together with love and understanding, they could create a force strong enough to face any trial. Ryan began to understand that the destruction he had seen wasn't set in stone. It wasn't a future that had to happen, it was a possible future. The choices of people, both individually and as a society, could alter the outcome. Jesus spoke about the power of forgiveness and how it could heal not only individuals but entire communities. He reminded Ryan that faith wasn't about avoiding hardship, but about finding the strength to face it with courage and hope. Even in the darkest times, Jesus said, faith will light the way. Ryan felt a deep sense of relief wash over him. Jesus was telling him that there was still time for humanity to change its course. The future wasn't written in stone. It was shaped by the choices people made. Jesus urged Ryan to carry this message of hope and redemption to the world. Tell them, Jesus said, that love and faith are the keys to overcoming the challenges ahead. Ryan realized that though the world faced great struggles, it also held the power to change. He felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility to share this message of hope with everyone he could. As the visions of destruction faded, Ryan's heart still heavy with sadness, he was suddenly enveloped by a sense of warmth and light. The scene around him began to change, shifting from despair to something entirely different. The darkness lifted, and he saw new visions, ones filled with hope and promise for the future. In these visions, Ryan witnessed communities coming together in ways he never imagined possible. After the storms, floods, and fires had passed, people who had once been strangers embraced one another, helping to rebuild their lives. He saw neighbors offering food, clothing, and shelter to those in need, working side by side to restore what had been lost. In these moments, the divisions between them, whether from anger, fear, or misunderstanding, had melted away. The shared experience of hardship had brought them closer, and their hearts were united in a common goal to rebuild and support one another. Ryan saw one family who had lost everything in a fire, standing in the midst of a community that rallied around them. People offered them food, blankets, and words of comfort. Despite their loss, the family smiled, grateful for the kindness and love shown by others. Ryan could feel the healing energy that flowed through the people in this vision. The disaster had not broken them. It had transformed them, bringing out the best in them. In another vision, Ryan saw a hospital where once sick patients miraculously healed. Doctors and nurses who had once been focused solely on medical treatments began to pray before every surgery. Their faith brought incredible results. People who had been given little hope for recovery suddenly healed in ways that couldn't be explained. It was as if the power of faith and prayer had shifted the energy in the room, bringing miracles to life. This healing wasn't just physical, it extended to the hearts and minds of everyone involved. Those who had felt hopeless found new purpose, and those who had been consumed with fear discovered peace. Jesus spoke to Ryan during these visions, explaining that this was the true power of faith and kindness. Through love and compassion, Jesus said, people can heal not only themselves but the world. Your actions, no matter how small, can create a ripple effect that touches countless lives. Love is the antidote to fear, and kindness is the foundation upon which transformation can happen. Jesus explained that these small acts of goodness could transform the world, rewriting the destinies of entire communities. It was through unity, faith, and forgiveness that people could create a new future. One filled with hope and healing instead of destruction. Ryan watched as people who had once been divided, whether by politics, religion, or other differences, came together in the face of adversity. Old enemies became friends, families reunited after years of conflict, and communities found strength in their shared humanity. They had rediscovered the importance of love, forgiveness, and faith in one another. They understood that when people unite in love, they can overcome anything. No matter how difficult the challenges may seem, Ryan felt a deep sense of peace as he watched these transformative scenes unfold. He knew that this was the future Jesus was showing him, the future that was still possible if humanity chose to change. These visions were a glimpse of what could be if people turned back to love, faith, and kindness. They weren't just abstract ideas. They were actions that had the power to heal and transform the world. Ryan understood that while the world faced immense struggles, there was always hope. And through faith and love, humanity had the power to rewrite its future. Jesus smiled at Ryan, his eyes filled with compassion and hope. "This," Jesus said softly, "is the future you must share. Let them know that no matter how dark the world may seem, love and faith can bring light to the darkest places." Ryan felt a deep responsibility to carry this message. He knew that by sharing these visions of hope, he could help others realize that their actions, small as they might seem, could create lasting change. The future was not predetermined. It was shaped by the choices each person made. Ryan was now ready to share the message he had been given, a message of love, faith, and transformation. As the warmth of the golden realm faded and the visions of hope and transformation dimmed, Ryan felt a sudden rush of energy fill his body. A jolt of life surged through him and he gasped for breath. The familiar sounds of the hospital room, Beeping machines, frantic voices, and the clatter of doctors' footsteps invaded his senses. He was back. Ryan's eyes fluttered open and he blinked, disoriented. His body felt heavy, as if it were struggling to adjust to the weight of the world once again. He looked around and saw his family, their faces a mixture of shock, joy, and disbelief. "Ryan," his mother cried, rushing to his side, tears streaming down her face as she hugged him tightly. His father stood beside her, equally stunned. "You're alive! You came back!" Ryan didn't know how to explain what had happened or how he had returned, but he could feel the warmth of Jesus' love still within him. It was as if a piece of heaven had come back with him. Although he was physically back, Ryan felt changed. The message he had received from Jesus weighed heavily on his heart, and he knew he couldn't keep it to himself. He needed to share what he had learned, no matter how strange it seemed to others. But when he tried to tell his family what he had seen, of the visions of the future, the call to change, and the power of love and faith, he was met with confusion and doubt. At first, his parents were skeptical. They were grateful that Ryan was alive, but the idea that he had been shown visions of the future by Jesus himself was hard to comprehend. "Ryan, we're so happy you're back, but are you sure about all this?" his father asked, his voice laced with concern. "Maybe it was just a dream or your mind trying to make sense of what happened." Ryan's heart sank. He understood their doubt. How could anyone believe such a remarkable story? But deep down, he knew it was true. He had felt the love of Jesus, the power of those visions, and the urgency of the message he had been given. Ryan was determined to carry out his mission, no matter the challenges ahead. The days that followed were difficult. While his family supported him and cared for him, they struggled to fully understand what he had experienced. Some of his friends and neighbors were equally skeptical. Some dismissed his story as a hallucination brought on by the trauma of his collapse, while others listened with curiosity but dismissed it as unlikely. However, Ryan didn't waver in his belief. He knew that what he had seen was real, and that his purpose was to share the message of hope and redemption that Jesus had entrusted to him. Ryan began speaking to anyone who would listen. He told them about the future he had witnessed, a future that could be changed, a world that could be saved. He spoke of the floods, the fires, and the division that would tear people apart. But he also shared the message that Jesus had given him, that through love, forgiveness, and faith, humanity could overcome these trials. Ryan urged people to turn to one another in kindness, to forgive past hurts, and to seek a deeper connection with their faith. He reminded them that it was not too late to change the course of the future. Though not everyone believed him, Ryan remained steadfast. He knew the message he carried was vital, and he wouldn't give up no matter how many people doubted him. He felt a deep responsibility to share what he had learned from Jesus, that love was the answer, that faith could bring light to the darkest places, and that unity was the key to overcoming the challenges ahead. Ryan's journey had only just begun. With each passing day, he became more certain of his mission. The burden of the message weighed on him, but it also filled him with purpose. He knew that the world needed to hear this message of hope and transformation. Though the future was uncertain, Ryan was determined to make a difference, one person at a time. He would not stop sharing the message of love, faith, and unity, because it was the key to changing the world, and it was a truth that he carried deep within his heart.